now to Deeyah Khan. Um, Deeyah is a critically acclaimed music producer, composer, and an Emmy Award-winning documentary film director. Her work focuses on human rights, women's voices, and freedom of expression. Her 2012 film, Bana's A Love Story, won several international awards. Deeyah is also the recipient of several awards for her work supporting freedom of expression. In 2012, she was awarded the Ossietzky Prize by Norwegian PEN. We look forward to hearing from you, Deeyah, and let me just say that people like you make us proud and very hopeful that there is a continuity and one generation will not, miss out on human rights activism.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This means the world to me, coming from someone like yourself, who is a personal heroine for me. So thank you so much. I feel very happy and very humbled to be here today. So thank you all. I have to say that as I was making my way over here today, I was thinking to myself, why am I here? What am I doing at the United Nations? And I have to say that now that I'm sitting here, I'm still thinking, why am I here? Because I look to my right and I see such remarkable and inspiring people, diplomats, activists, lawyers, who are all doing such extraordinary things in the world. And I think to myself, I'm just an artist. I write music, I make some films. I don't know all the answers to everything that's being discussed here today. But what I do know is that there is a reason why artists, intellectuals, and also women tend to be the first targets of either oppressive regimes, of fundamentalist groups, or of reactionaries of all stripes. So that makes me ask the question, what does really art and artists have to do with civil society, or with human rights, or with democracy? And I'm very glad that actually you, sir, brought up artistic expression. I do feel that art is a universal and a very human, a very direct form of communication that we have. And I think one of the reasons perhaps that I'm here today is to help explain and to perhaps shed some light on the role that some art and some artists play and why it is so important to include us. And as I say, art is a very human and a very basic and a very direct form of communication that touches our heart, it touches our mind, it has the capacity to make us think, it has the capacity to make us feel, both which are elements that makes it much harder to control us, much harder to break our spirits, and much harder to impose on us things that are inhuman. And I think art has many purposes in society. Art can be anything from an expression of beauty, an expression of hope, an expression of discomfort as well, an expression of challenging and asking the difficult questions that need to be asked. But it can also be something that expresses the stories and the experiences of our ancestors. But I have to say that there are thousands of artists around the world who are not just creating art for the sake of art, but they are providing their art and their creativity in service of social activism. And for artists like that, they end up becoming the voices of the voiceless. They end up becoming truth tellers. They end up speaking truth to power. They end up challenging and end up asking the questions and exposing human rights abuses. They end up exposing corruption, end up exposing the hypocrisies that exists among us. And for artists like that, they are under great danger in all corners of the world. They are constantly harassed, constantly threatened. Some are tortured, some are imprisoned, some are even killed. And we're speaking about women journalists. I would like to also mention that being an artist and a woman is something that is extraordinarily difficult in the world that we live in today. Not only do women artists have to face the same dangers that our male counterparts face, but also women artists have to face a secondary layer of danger, which is gender specific. So whether that relates to sexual violence or brutality, or in some societies it relates to violence and abuse that is dished out to them through their own families and their own communities, simply because they are women and simply because they are participating in an activity that may be considered immoral or unacceptable for women to partake in, specifically in public life. So, unlike journalists, I would say that artists do not enjoy the same protection and the same support globally. And there are very few organizations and very few actors within civil society that actually work for or stand with the artists when they find themselves in danger or find themselves compromised. There are very few organizations such as Freemuse, for example, who actually document the violations and also provide support for artists in trouble. I would like to say on a positive note that last year the United Nations released a report on the freedom of artistic expression and creativity, and that is a very welcome step for all of us. I personally appreciate it very much. However, on the ground, artists' situation is actually not improving very much. They still find themselves alone. They find themselves lacking in any kind of solidarity, in any kind of support and protection that, for example, media or journalists enjoy. And I mean, I just have to say that I believe that the reason art is so powerful is also demonstrated in the efforts that are taken in crushing it. You know, when you see, for example, you know, when the Taliban came into power in Afghanistan, there is a reason that the two things that were removed from the public space was women and it was art, it was music. And dictators will utilize art for their own benefit, for their own propaganda. Corporations will utilize art to influence how we behave and the choices that we make. But now for the artists that are working for human rights around the world, who are working for human dignity and are working for a world that we all believe in, for them to be left completely alone and completely isolated and relegated to only being entertainers, I think is a great disservice to human rights defenders and truth tellers that are genuinely risking their lives out there for us. And I would say that art is as necessary to democracy as a free press. I believe that art and artists play a very vital and it's very underestimated role in civil society. And, you know, the reason I'm saying this is not to underestimate, and it's not to look away from the extraordinary work that activists are doing in various fields. The reason I'm mentioning this is that the challenges that face us as a human family are so great and they're so difficult that we are not in a position to discount anyone. It's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of our talents, all of our creativity to genuinely address and work for the world that we all are wishing for, which is a world of freedom and equality in dignity and in rights for every single individual. And so I think that's why I'm here. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for your powerful message. I think we now understand how artistic expression and the commitment of artists like you to bring consciousness even during difficult times keeps the society alive. I think any encroachments upon the freedom of expression, especially of artistic expression, strangulates all humanity in a society. We'll come back to this when we are into more discussions, because we are running a little short of time, but I hope you will keep this thought in mind. How does your freedom of expression and your artistic expression give the strength to the civil society, especially during difficult times when freedom of expression, movement, assembly, association are so constricted? I will call upon Mr. Mukhtar Trifi, a Tunisian lawyer with many years of experience working for human rights as a trade unionist, journalist.